Good evening. Just wait a few moments for our viewers to join. Hello, hello. Some friends already joining in. I'll wait a few moments so we'll have a bigger audience, and I see that our guest already joined as well. Just gonna give some moments. Pour yourselves a glass of port. I've done it. I have an LBV here from 2015. And we'll start very shortly. Hello Isabel, some good friends I see, some followers of the School of Port page. I know that Miguel is already asking to join. I'm just going to wait a few more seconds, and Miguel, when it's time for you to join, I will ask you to ask again. But I believe we can start. Just a few more seconds. I see a lot of people are joining. I will add Miguel Cabral in a moment. I'll have a short introduction, and I believe we can start. Of course, we'll post the live session afterwards, and so those who will be a little bit later can check it out later on, of course. So welcome to this School of Port live session. My name is Philippe. I'm one of the export managers at the Siemens & Family Estate. And today here at School of Port, we will focus on a very special subject, of course, very important for the wine world, which is cork and natural cork as a wine stopper. We'll have on in a few moments Miguel Cabral with us, and I hope he will help us to understand a little bit more about the major concerns about the cork world and the cork production, and specifically some new technologies that the Marine has developed, and also the industry of the cork production. Not only Ndtech, that we will talk a little bit more in detail. I hope in very simple terms for all of us that are not specialists like Miguel is. So he's a very renowned specialist in the area. About Ndtech technology, I'm going to read a few words so that we have as an introduction. Then we'll ask Miguel a few questions, and we'll go from a more wider, let's say, approach of the cork world into the more specific, then the last question about the Ndtech technology and other technologies that the Marine and the industry are working on. And so the Ndtech technology is a revolutionary system that applies individualized quality control screening technology for natural cork stoppers that delivers the world's first natural cork with a non-detectable TCA performance. So of course we will shed a light on this, what is TCA, and Miguel will explain all of those things. So I see he's joining, so we'll have a 25-minute conversation, and I'm going to try to join Miguel now. And please feel free to ask questions. We'll try to answer them before the end of the session. And at the end, I'll also give you more information. So let's see if Miguel... I think it's coming. Here we are. Miguel, good evening.
Good evening, Philippe. How are you?
Thank you very much for being here. We did a short training session of 1 hour ago to see if all the technical things were in place, but I believe we are in a good place now, and we will start this conversation. So again, like Miguel, I told you, so our viewers we are wine lovers in most of us, and especially port lovers. So of course you are a very renowned specialist in the area of the cork world. But we'll try to maybe keep it as simple as possible for us that are just, not scientists like yourself, and try to answer some of the questions. So I will start, if you don't mind. And okay. I have a question here, let's say, starting the more, let's say, general approach about the cork in the wine. So we know that nowadays we'll have other artificial materials that are re-arising as valid solutions for wine stoppers. But this is like somehow the spreading of a misinformation. So they put these new artificial materials in the same level as, on equal terms, I would say, as cork, the natural wine stopper. What are actually, for us to understand, the big scientifically proven benefits of using natural cork, I would say, as a wine stopper? And what should we communicate as wine producers and also for the consumers to understand?
Thank you, Filipe, for the question. Well, you know, in the end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000, the years 2000, alternative closures came into the market, synthetic stoppers and then screw caps. They came into the market because cork had a problem, and a strong problem, which was a TCA problem. And once we were not doing too much to solve the problem, obviously we allow a window of opportunity for them to come. Our big chance was that they allow us and they push us to solve our problems. And so nowadays we have our problems almost solved from one side, and from the other side we have the fantastic chance that the synthetic stoppers that came at that time actually with a I would say with a highlight of being the solution for the problem, but at the end technically they did not work properly because they allow permeability of oxygen, so they allow oxygen to come into the bottle in a way that the wine will get oxidized within a certain period of time. It is not true for 1 year, 1 year and a half, but it starts to be true for 2 years or more. So that is the situation for synthetics, and so the synthetics are a little bit out of the equation nowadays. They come down often and strongly each year, and we have now the screw caps that came in the middle of the 2000, 2005, 2006, around that. They came, and they are well, a good competitor to us. Because they are not a bad closure. However, they cannot be used for wines for a long aging because they do not allow oxygen to come in since the beginning. And that is not the case of the cork stopper. The cork stopper allows the oxygen to come into the bottle in the beginning. When we squeeze the cork to introduce in a bottle, they allow the oxygen to come in, and then we reach within 6 months around that, we reach a plateau. And so from that moment on, we do not have more oxygen to come into the bottle from the cork. But the curious thing is that the cork allows oxygen to come in from the interior of itself, not from the exterior of the environment, okay? Which is very interesting as product, I would say unique as product. So, that is not the case of screw caps. They do not allow oxygen to come in from the exterior, that's true, but in the beginning they do not insert oxygen enough in the bottle that allows the normal development of the wine. So, yeah.
Yeah, so that's an important point, because people sometimes might believe that, okay, the main goal of the cork is not to allow oxygen to get in, which I'd say in very general terms it is, but it's very important that micro-oxygenation to happen. So the evolution, especially for wines that we're going to age for a long time, can start in a good way.
Yeah.
So I imagine screw caps eliminate that, and so the wine doesn't even evolve.
No doubt about that. However, be careful with the micro-oxygenation term.
Okay. Yeah, lame terms from a lame person.
Be careful with that, just because the cork, it is assumed by everybody that cork allows a micro-oxygenation during time, and it's not exactly like that. It allows oxygenization of the wine in the beginning, and then within 6 months it reaches a plateau, and so if there is some amount of oxygen coming in, is actually really micron, I would say. It's really, really small. So the importance is we do not allow the cork stopper, do not allow the oxygen to come in from one moment on, but on the other side, it allows a fantastic interaction between the wine and the cork itself, because cork has extractable compounds, and these compounds from the cork will be extracted into the wine during time, because it's a small amount of these compounds that came into the wine, but during time. And that's what is going to allow is a reaction between these compounds and the wine compounds, because at the end these compounds are also compounds from the wine. Sure. And so they are similar, and so they react with the compounds from the wine, allowing a more balanced wine aging. And that is the reason why, because it's our the subject of our conversation, that's the why into vintage it's actually very important to have a natural cork on it.
Yeah. So that would be my second question. If we get a little bit more into the world that is our world, so port wine. Yeah. As you know, there's many different styles of ports. I've poured myself a glass of port. I don't know if Miguel has the same, but if not now, afterwards.
Actually, Filipe, you should say to me when we have this training session. You should say to me that.
One thing. So there's many different styles of port, of course, but for us, when we talk about vintage port, so the king of port style, so those are wines that we recommend at least to age for a long time. And so my question would be, so particularly features for a vintage port cork that cork should have. So having in mind exactly that it's expected to a long aging process. So if we compare to other corks that are available on the market, of course. So if we talk about really high quality cork, I would say for
high end, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have to say one thing. I cannot imagine a vintage without a natural cork stopper on it. Sure. Because we have alternative closures to natural cork stoppers, alternative closures in the cork side, of course, which are the technical corks, but I cannot see vintage without a natural cork. That is by tradition first. Mm-hmm. That is by interaction between the cork and the wine. And also, it's very important to understand the sustainable side of the cork, because it's important to understand and to know that one single cork in a bottle fixes 309 grams of CO2.
Okay.
So this sustainable part, it's actually very important to a product, to a natural product like a vintage port or a port wine. So if scientifically is actually important to have a product that closes a bottle of wine and will allow the release of compounds that will contribute to the balanced wine aging from one side, it's also important to have a product that fits well in the right marriage between the wine and the bottle and then the closure. And this sustainable side is also very important for this.
Yes, for sure. That's one of the most big and important things about cork comparing to other wine stoppers. That is a 100% natural product, and so that's also a very more and more important matter for all the wine producers and all our partners as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that. I'm going to ask you the next question. I think it's the big question for those who are not, I would say, specialists, because we tend to talk about, first of all, one of the things that we wine producers and wine consumers tend to blame all the problems of the wines in the cork. And we know that the wine, so we say in Portugal, we say cheira a rolha, sabe a rolha, so the cork taint. But we know that's not the only default that the wine can have, and not always is the cork to blame, I suppose. But of course, there are sometimes the cork is to blame. And we talk about this cork taint, we talk about TCA. And if you can explain us, I would say in simple terms, if possible, exactly what is TCA related to cork, but also I would say nature in other products that we have, that we consume, because it's not only in wine, I understand.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, TCA, it's a molecule. This is the first thing. It's a chemical compound, because it's often we read that TCA is a bacteria or is a mold. No, it's not true. TCA, it's a chemical compound. It's a molecule, and this molecule is produced from mainly molds. So molds uses another compound, which is trichlorophene, it doesn't matter, and you change this trichlorophene into trichloroanisole, into TCA. What is the big problem of TCA? It is the terrible smell that it has. A terrible smell, the moldy taint, which is it's so sensitive to us that corresponds to a drop of TCA. We can smell it like from the level of 1 nanogram per liter or more. And what this means, that one drop of water, one drop in 800 Olympic swimming pools. So
800, okay.
800 Olympic swimming pools. So imagine the so small amount of TCA that is going to create a problem. And so the problem with this compound is just that it's not toxic, neither creates any problem, any health problem, concern, or nothing at all. Is just a compound that has a terrible smell at a very small level, incredible small level. So facing this, to solve the problem of TCA, it's very important. It's very difficult. It's very difficult because of that, because a very small amount of compounds, a very small concentration that creates a problem. Secondly, TCA, we all talk about TCA with cork, but it's not unique from cork. And it's not unique from cork because of its origin. Its origin is produced facing TCP and the action of a mold. So the mold facing TCP will change TCP into TCA. So you can have TCA in water. Just go to Australia and all the water you drink has a small amount of TCA, or sometimes a very big amount of TCA, because they chlorinate a lot the water. In tea, in beer, in coffee, and then in several different fruits, you can have TCA. You can have TCA in a barrel. You can have TCA in the environment. So, without putting aside the responsibility of cork in the contamination of the wine with TCA, because we know that the majority of the wines contaminated with TCA at the origin came from the cork. However, we can have other sources, and we have conditions to analyze the cork and the wine. We analyze the cork into different heights, and then the wine, in order to see from the real origin of TCA in that wine. So we are able to do that nowadays easily. So no doubt that we can have several origins of TCA, but no doubt too that cork is a very important origin,
Yeah, you say it's a mold that produces, so transforms one component into another component, which is TCA.
Yeah.
And so relating to cork, this mold is already in the tree, is afterwards, is during the process. How does it usually happen?
You have the molds in the environment. So you have molds in the forests. You have molds in the winery. You have molds everywhere. So when we strip the cork from the tree, we can have already TCA.
Okay.
But before a lot of years ago, um, we managed the cork not in the proper way, not assuming that the cork has to be uh, uh, like a product that is going to contact with food. Before, we did not look to the product like this, and so we could have an increase of TCA during cork production. Nowadays, that is completely out of story because we have very good conditions, sanitation conditions and cleaning conditions in all the factories. However, we can the mainly TCA origin is actually from the tree, where the cork stays growing in the tree for 9 years, and during that period a lot of things happens. And so I can say that in the cork tree we have a part of the bark that is in contact with the soil, that is much more humid, because in the soil you have higher humidity level than outside, of course. And so the molds grow more. And growing more, if there is TCP, we will have TCA.
Yeah.
Let me just finish your question about talking a little bit about TCP, the trichlorophenol. The origin of trichlorophenol, we don't know yet exactly what it is. However, we know one thing. We know that the pesticides used in the forests and mainly in the cereal fields some years ago, that pesticides, if they have TCP, which was often the case, the TCP stays very stable during time. So we still nowadays are seeing that TCP that came from more than 20 years ago. So that is one origin for sure, but probably not the unique, and we don't know the other.
Sure. No, that's really an interesting point. So actually, so you're saying that a lot of the food for the mold to transform into TCA probably no, for sure came from, I would say, bad practices from the past, I would say. So,
well, again, at that time they were not so bad practices, because we did not know that.
We did not know, yeah, exactly. So at least, yeah, but it's an important point to see how important it is to understand how we relate to nature as well, and all the things that we will use. Because when we talk about cork production, wine production, we're talking about the human activity, so we have to be responsible. So I mean, there's no such thing, even when we say a natural cork is natural, but a wine stopper is not natural, or a wine is never natural because it's man-made, so human-made. So we have to be responsible and more about those things. So no, thank you very much for that, especially about TCA, because we all do speak about TCA like we understand it, but it's much more. Those details are very important for us to understand. And so, and speaking about TCA and about the topic of this of our live session, so talking about more specific this technology that Amorim developed a few years ago, and we spoke earlier, like I said, and there's other technologies that Amorim and also the cork industry are presenting to us wine producers. So Ndtech, what can you tell us exactly at least in simple terms again, what it is, what's the goal, and other technology that the cork industry is working on to remove, I would say, this problem. Yeah.
Okay. Look, Amorim in 2000 creates a department of research and development in order to deal with this TCA problem. And as I said before, the TCA problem is actually a very difficult TCA problem because of the very low amounts of quantity of TCA that creates the problem itself. And so we have developed several technologies that are implemented in the field in order to deal with the problem. And nowadays, the problem is actually completely at very traces level, I would say. But one of the most important technologies we developed to deal with this problem was actually Ndtech. Ndtech came into the market in 2016, and when at that year we produced around 7 million corks, Ndtech corks, and this year we produce 82 million Ndtech corks already. What is Ndtech? Basically, it's a technique that analyzes cork by cork, one by one, for TCA. But the point is, in order to be able to produce the 82 million corks this year, and we hope to reach the 100 million corks, probably not next year, but in 2 years' time, we have to analyze cork by cork in 15 seconds and analyze in gas chromatography. Gas chromatography, it's well, it's normally a technique used in a lab scale, and we transform this lab scale technology in and we put them in the factory in a production scale. And so we have something like 78 gas chromatography equipments in the factory, 78, which are able to produce around 230,000 corks. So to analyze 230,000 corks per day. So that corresponds to around 7 million corks per month. And so that allows us to reach the 82 million corks. So this was a project that starts and continues to be a collaboration between us and a UK company, very, very, very specialized in chromatography. But the chromatography in generally, the chromatography, the big companies, the American companies and Japanese companies that produces chromatography equipments, they normally do equipments in order to analyze several compounds. So we made an injection and we are able to see several compounds in the chromatogram, what we call chromatogram. But this company in UK does exactly the opposite, which was they tailor-made for chromatography for one compound or two compounds, what we want. And so we arrived there with this challenge. We need to tailor-made this chromatography for TCA.
TCA,
and
okay.
They are brilliant, and actually they arrived at to do that. And we have now, but at the end, they are not finalized equipments, because they are always prototypes, because they are in permanent development, but in the field, and so it's actually a tremendous technology that we have there, and we've a tremendous success in the market. Since the beginning, we were always back to the market, because we were not able to produce the demands. Last year, we were almost at the market level, and we hope this year to fulfill that demand. Obviously, this is for, as I told you, 82, 85 million corks. But we produce more. So the question is, and the other corks, are they not treated? Don't forget that we produce around 900 million to 1 billion natural corks. So what we do with the others, basically what we do is just this. We launched in November last year a technology called Maturity, where we treat the corks in a batch. And so we have at the moment the total capacity installed, and we hope to treat in 2021 700 million corks by this technology. So trying to cover all the production of natural corks. So 100 million Ndtech, and the others in maturity. Maturity, it's a system that do not analyze one by one. It analyzes in a drum 26,000 corks per drum, and it's a treatment based on physical characteristics. So we change physical parameters in order to obtain this result. Fantastic result. We have a patent pending at the moment. This was made in collaboration with the Universidade Nova in Lisbon, and so we are very happy with the technology that we very recently launched. So as I told you before, I do say that TCA is going to be clearly a thing of the past.
Okay, that's great to know. Thank you very much, Miguel. I know we are at the time to stop. There's a few questions that our viewers asked us, but we are really reaching the half an hour, and probably maybe this will end before I can answer all the questions. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask everyone to stay tuned. Later on, we will answer this question. I took note, and so we'll answer here in our platform later on. Some about recorking the vintage ports, some about the tips for transport and storage of the corks itself, but also the wines, and some more technical questions that were asked. But we'll answer later on, because we are really reaching. Miguel, thank you very much for your time. It's fascinating, and we could spend another half an hour and even more talking about these things. But I think it's a nice introduction. I'm going to ask all our viewers to comment, to send us, to drop a direct message, and with other topics they would like for us to discuss, or even a second round about cork, if it's the case. We can do it, of course. Check our YouTube channel as well, because we have all the sessions are there as well, if you prefer to watch it on your laptop and not to your phone, and also some very nice port wine cocktail recipes. So Miguel, once again, thank you very much, and
thank you.
I hope to meet you in person when all of this confinement ends and we are all vaccinated with the vaccine that comes to all of us. Okay.
Thank you, Filipe. Very.
All of you for joining us, and stay safe and enjoy some port, and have a nice evening. Muito obrigado.
Thank you, Filipe, for the invitation. Thank you. Bye.